Tonight on CBC Vancouver News.
It's my job as Premier to defend Alberta. That's exactly what we will do.
Pipeline politics.
Our lawyers today filed 2 actions in court to strike down the bill because we believe it's unconstitutional.
BC fights Alberta's new turn off the taps law in court. Also,
after abuse allegations made against an ex-coach, the Vancouver Whitecaps apologized to female players. And
no, I go whizzing by the gas pumps.
as federal rebates kick in, we visit the BC community that's more revved up about electric vehicles than anywhere else in the country.
This is CBC Vancouver News.
good evening. BC and Alberta went all in today in a political poker game over pipelines.
Alberta Premier Jason Kenney's threat to turn off the taps to BC is now law, one that our government is challenging in court. As
our provincial affairs reporter Tanya Fletcher tells us, neither leader is ready just yet to call the other's bluff.
As we promised we would during the election, we proclaimed into law the Preserving Canada's Economic Prosperity Act, also known as Bill 12.
Within hours of being sworn in, Alberta's new premier made good on his threat to launch turn off the taps legislation into law. And within hours of hearing that, BC marched straight to the courts to block it.
We've filed the constitutional challenge in Calgary, and we've asked the court for an injunction to stop Alberta from using the newly proclaimed law until the underlying action is done.
But Jason Kenney has no intention of actually turning off the taps, according to John Horgan.
He said that he had no plans to use the bill, but felt as it was a key election commitment that he would proceed with it.
It set a decidedly different tone between the provinces.
The conversation was quite cordial. We had some good laughs. He's got a sense of humor. That puts us in a good spot right off the bat.
Kenney was quick to use gas prices in his appeal to British Columbians.
People in the Vancouver region are rightfully ticked off. They're paying $1.70 a litre to fill up their cars.
He's suggesting the Trans Mountain expansion is the answer because more pipeline capacity would mean more refined product to BC. But that doesn't square up with the current plans for the project. We asked Trans Mountain what type of product would flow through the expansion and where exactly it would go. Here's what the company told us. 13 shippers have made long-term commitments for roughly 80% of the capacity on the expanded pipeline. We expect the majority of the expansion capacity will be for export from the Westridge Marine Terminal in Burnaby. So Horgan is now shifting his target from Alberta to Ottawa, suggesting the federal government is responsible for getting more refined product to BC.
I will say directly to the Prime Minister, but I've said to his people today, that you own the pipeline. Get some gasoline into that pipeline so that we can relieve pressure in the Lower Mainland.
In the meantime, Horgan is still waiting on the courts to rule on BC's jurisdictional challenge. And when asked what other tools are left in the toolbox for him to use,
when you're playing poker, you should keep your cards in your hand, so you need to play them.
Tanya Fletcher, CBC News, Victoria.
Amid allegations of misconduct against a former coach, complaints from former players and fan walkouts, the Vancouver Whitecaps are now saying sorry.
The club releasing a statement late this afternoon addressing complaints numerous former players made about a former head coach.
CBC Vancouver News at 11 host Dan Burrett joins us live now with more. Dan, remind us about these complaints.
Anita, Mike, in March of this year, 13 former members of the 2008 Women's Whitecaps and National Women's Under-20 squads issued a public statement saying each of them witnessed, quote, incidents of abuse, manipulation, or inappropriate behavior by head coach Bob Berarda in 2007 and 2008 when he was in charge of both teams. Now, both the Whitecaps and Soccer Canada quietly parted ways with Berarda in 2008. The Caps hired an independent investigator to report into the allegations, but have never made it public. Berarda, for his part, immediately found another job coaching teenage girls in Tawasin and later South Surrey, but was suspended this February when former Caps player Kira McCormick published a blog post accusing him of misconduct. Now, those claims led some of the Caps' most diehard fans, the Southsiders, to walk out of at least 2 home games recently, as you can see. Now the co-owners of the club, Greg Kerfoot and Jeff Mallett, have written a letter expressing sincere regret and empathy for the harm that, quote, has clearly come to many women who participated in our program at that time. Here's part of the other statement. They said, the pain and suffering these women feel is real and something we care deeply about. And while we sought and acted on the advice of the best available counsel at the time, It is clear that people were deeply affected. For that, we are sorry. They said the club will also conduct a thorough and independent review of its operations. Anita, Mike?
All right, Dan, so what do the former players and those Southsiders think of all this?
Well, for her part, Kira McCormick is not satisfied. Take a look at what she tweeted this afternoon. Initial personal reaction to WFC letter: no sincerity, no accountability, and many, many unanswered questions remain. Not to mention it's taken 2 months since the blog, 2 fan walkouts, and 10,000 person drop in fan attendance to even have this addressed. Not even close to good enough. Now, for their part, the Southsiders say, we are carefully reviewing what Whitecaps FC have released. Before commenting further, we will need time to discuss things internally with our board and volunteers, Kira McCormick and the others who have come forward, and our fellow supporters in Curva Collective. So a lot to get through still, and we'll have more tonight at 11. Anita, Mike?
All right, Dan Burrett live tonight. Thanks.
Well, we have some sad news to share tonight. Popular BC sports writer and broadcaster Jason Botsford has died of apparent heart failure.
Every once in a while, you get something special.
Botsford started covering the NHL for the province newspaper back in 2005. While there, Botsford's entertaining and edgy Provies column became a must-read for Canucks fans. Many in the Canucks organization mourning him today, including Elias Pettersson, saying Botsford was a true professional and a kind man. Botsford was 48 years old. He is survived by his wife and 3 kids. Well, some parents of kids with autism are worried about the loss of provincial funding for a key BC program.
But as Eva Eugwin-Senge reports tonight, the government says it no longer meets the necessary requirements.
I'm gonna land on that, okay? Ready? Oh, good job!
The half-hour sessions he spends in this gym are Eli Gooding's favorite time of the week.
Let go!
The 4-year-old was diagnosed with autism about a year ago. He's been attending Empowering Steps movement therapy sessions at Club Aviva ever since. His mom says they've made a huge difference.
He loves it. We've probably seen more success and progress with this program than any of our other therapies that we've done.
Autism Funding BC has covered the costs of the program for 12 years. Since January, parents' applications for funding have been rejected.
They just started to snowball. We got more and more rejections. There still are a few that trickle through that get approved, so that it's very inconsistent.
Gooding has to apply to renew her son's funding in August.
How it stands now, it will get rejected most likely. And that's really concerning for me and frustrating because we've built a complex program with different therapies to help meet different goals for my son.
Parents of children with autism under 6 years of age can access up to $22,000 a year for autism interventions. They can use that funding for behavior consultants, occupational and physical therapists, and speech-language pathologists.
There you go, good job.
But the Ministry of Children and Family Development says the program is no longer eligible for funding because Club Aviva's employees have not been listed on their registry of autism service providers. The province did not explain why it's taken 12 years for it to notice the issue.
Unless you have one of those degrees, you just don't have an option to even apply to be on it.
Club Aviva says it's willing to take steps to become accredited.
We are doing everything we can to be evidence-based and to get results for these kids. Why would you take away funding for that? Why isn't there some way for us to become accredited?
Davidson says they've emailed the parents of more than 30 kids to warn them. The ministry says it's holding back future funding until its requirements are met.
We might be able to pay for some out of pocket, but that's a huge burden on families. And many of us are already stretched very thin.
Without funding, parents like Gooding will have to pay over $300 a month for their child's weekly sessions. Eva Eugwin-Senge, CBC News, Coquitlam.
The province is recommending changes to protect staff at a casino in Richmond after allegations of sexual harassment. In 2017, several staff at the River Rock Casino reported they'd been assaulted by patrons. The company that owns the casino was accused of burying those reports, and casino management allegedly asked staff to sign non-disclosure agreements stopping them from reporting the incidents to the BC Lottery Corporation. Now, after 2 investigations, government is recommending more staff training, clarifying reporting requirements, and creating a player code of conduct. More
than 100 fishermen protested outside the office of Canada's Fisheries Minister today. The group rallied against recent bans on Chinook salmon fishing. The DFO has closed fisheries along the Fraser River and South Coast to recreational anglers. Officials say Chinook populations are dwindling due to fishing, habitat destruction, and climate change. But recreational anglers say they're being unfairly targeted.
In our local area, less than 1% of all the Chinook salmon that we catch are from stocks of concern. This whole thing is about one stock of Chinook salmon. There's management strategies that are available.
The group says the sweeping ban will harm BC's $1.1 billion fishing industry. It's urging DFO to open up fisheries along the South Coast and allow anglers to catch hatchery-bred Chinook. Those are fish that are bred specifically for fishing.
An iconic Vancouver department store is marking 100 years in business. Army and Navy opened its first ever store on West Hastings Street in 1919. Now, in its third generation of family ownership, it has expanded since the early days of selling Army boots, with 5 stores in BC and Alberta, attracting customers with bargain prices and housewares and shoes. The store marked a century of success in retailing with its annual shoe sale this morning. That runs until Sunday.
Well, some tried and true companions were given some much needed love today. Residents of Surrey's Steve Coban building held a pet food pantry today, collecting supplies for their 4-legged friends. Operated by the Lookout Society, the building offers modular housing to people and their pets. Those behind the initiative say pets have helped many residents cope with difficult circumstances.
Known lots of people who have been living in tents outside and in pretty rough situations, but have been able to make it through day to day because they have a dog and because they have that companionship, and that's what's helped them to move forward.
VCA Animal Hospitals was also on hand, providing free veterinary services.
Since we've had this nice stretch of good weather, I've seen a lot more patio drinkers out there.
Oh, I thought you were going to say something else, but sure, let's go with patio drinkers, yeah.
Yes, well, I wish I could actually be at one right now, but you know what? I'll take standing outside on this type of patio instead. I mean, it's very beautiful out here. Everything is looking quite nice. I know this morning started perhaps a little bit cloudier than some were hoping for, but by midday, temperatures and the sun really climbed up, so it was actually nice. And if we take a quick look at what our current temperatures are across the lower mainland, we have temperatures widespread into the mid-teens, and this is pretty classic for this time of year. Temperatures May 1st already, seasonal average about 14 degrees for Vancouver. And earlier on in the day, we did actually reach 17 degrees at YVR. Now, for the next couple of hours, if you're wondering how they're going to be playing out, we're going to look at temperatures dropping down to potentially anywhere between 7 or 8 degrees. Now, it's not really all that cold. We'll have a little bit of cloud building in, so that's really not our major story. And in terms of daytime highs for tomorrow, it looks like 13 is the lucky number of the day. Many communities across the lower mainland going to be reaching for that. Now, it's not just a temperature story across the whole region. I did want to mention, and we'll have more on this coming up, but there actually is going to be a little bit of rain in the forecast. It shouldn't really bother downtown Vancouver, but if you're anywhere north of the Fraser River along Highway 7, that's where we could be dealing with some showers throughout Thursday afternoon and into the evening. So as I said, more on that will be coming up.
Making a note to avoid Highway 7.
Yes,
Thanks, Brett.
No problem.
Well, a local musician is trying to find $15,000 worth of instruments stolen in a smash-and-grab burglary.
As the CBC's Tina Lovegreen reports, the victim is looking to restore some harmony in his life.
Finn Manicky tries to find comfort playing a borrowed guitar, but it's not the same.
You know, you get very attached to your instrument and everything.
But he hopes his most treasured possession, his cello, will turn up.
It is like a one-of-a-kind thing, right? Like it's handmade, unique, and it was kind of a funky cello in a way. It was small and it had this really distinctive color, like a really kind of dark brown.
Someone stole it along with his guitar after he left them inside his car.
They broke this window right here.
He had parked at Pacific Center while he went to grab a quick bite after a weekly gig.
But I saw like so many security people, so many parking lot, workers or whatever, milling about, that I thought it'd be, pretty brazen thief that would do something like this.
but the brazen thieves stole the instruments worth $15,000. Maneki freelances and plays in the local band Van Django. He had been playing that cello for 20 years.
My friend Henry was like, when I told him, he was like, well, it's not like you lost a limb, but it feels like it.
He's filed a police report.
And they said to look on, Craigslist and Kijiji and everything, and have a look in pawn shops every once in a while.
He's also offering a reward for its return.
I'm hoping that it'll turn up somewhere along the line.
In the meantime, he's rented a cello for his upcoming gigs, but it certainly isn't the same. Tina Lovegreen, CBC News, Vancouver.
Federal rebates kick in today to encourage you to buy an electric vehicle. The incentive includes up to $5,000 off the cost of an electric car and $2,500 off a plug-in hybrid for cars costing less than $55,000. That would include some of the most popular models like the Nissan Leaf, the Chevy Bolt, and some versions of the Tesla Model 3. Electric car experts say there's no doubt the rebates help to boost greener car purchases.
Add all that to already announced provincial rebates in this province, and drivers here could be looking at even bigger savings.
So why isn't everyone rushing out to take advantage of free money? David Common took a road trip around BC to find out.
Probably not a surprise that Canada's electric vehicle mecca is here on Salt Spring Island. The green-leaning community claims to have a greater concentration of zero-emission vehicles than anywhere else in North America.
So what made you start doing this with an electric vehicle?
The ecological aspect of it and keeping our carbon footprint as small as possible.
Jason Griffin, one of hundreds of EV drivers here, but it's not a utopia. Jason needs a van to move tourists around wineries, and this is the only electric van for sale right now.
This was my only real option for a vehicle this size.
He uses solar panels to charge his van, but even when full, the electric range is only 50 kilometers. After that, a gas engine kicks in. Jason, though, keeps his tours tight.
You say you're down to half a tank of gas now, but since when?
Since I bought the vehicle 9 months ago. So that's the gas.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's
You're on the same tank of gas from 9 months ago.
That's the gas that came from Willie Dodge in Victoria, where I bought this van. So, yeah.
So I guess that shows the electrical charge is enough for what you do.
Oh yeah, it's totally fine.
For others, though, limited range and limited model selection mean many Canadians are intrigued by electric, but worry it's not yet the right moment. Doing this story about electric vehicles, even we weren't confident enough to drive 700 kilometers inland in an EV. But as we head up the mountains through snow and wilderness towards the isolated town of Rossland, we're meeting someone whose job it is to bust myths and assuage the worries.
So have you driven? No? Okay. Have you got much information before? You're brand new.
Yes.
Yes. That's great.
Jen, David.
Hi, David. Nice to meet you.
Good to meet you.
Yeah.
So how's it going?
It's awesome.
EV show's on.
It's on.
Jen Grebeldinger is showing off electric vehicles, trying to dispel myths in the rural interior, where conditions can get bad quickly.
When we're in a rural environment like this, what is the biggest inhibitor for people considering the leap into an EV?
So across BC, what we always hear is selection, availability at dealerships, local dealerships, and then cost.
To challenge misconceptions, Jen is offering test drives. So we hop in too.
When you're out there talking about electric vehicles, what are the things people go, yeah, but?
Yeah, but winter.
Winter.
Yeah, but hills.
Hills. And what do you say to those?
Just drive safely with winter tires, and that's your winter driving for most people, right?
You seem to like it.
I like it, yeah.
There are a lot of surprised looks here. And that's the point of this EV showcase, to have existing EV owners explain just how they manage.
Do you have kids?
Yeah, two boys.
And everybody gets in there?
Yeah.
There is a map of the Kootenay charge infrastructure over here. Okay. So that's actually a lot more than I would have thought. Okay, so a fair bit.
And there's still the front motors in here.
And then there's your fluid there.
Your
okay.
fluid.
We are 7 hours from Calgary, 7 hours from Vancouver. Why an electric vehicle?
The principle, basically. My requirements were a 500-kilometer electric range and all-wheel drive for the mountains in the winter.
And how many vehicles did that leave you to choose from?
This is the only one.
Actual selection is still quite limited, but it is changing. More cars, larger cars, soon pickups.
Pull it back into drive there. So car's still on, obviously.
So how do you know it's running?
The screens are on.
And gradually, more with ranges above 300 kilometers.
Oh, she's responsive, eh?
It's so easy to drive.
In the passenger seat, a farmer from Saskatchewan.
The electric tractors are coming out too.
Yeah, Thomas tractors, yeah, they'll be coming. Not sure how all that's gonna work.
His son-in-law, though, thinks it could work into his lifestyle.
What'd you think?
Oh, it's awesome. We get so used to being able to do whatever we want, whenever we want to do. We get hungry, we just stop whenever, and we don't have to plan anything out. But with a little bit of pre-planning, you could make this work.
That is the hope of the EV Showcase. Get people thinking less about the barriers, more about overcoming them. Indeed, for EV owners, most, if not all, charging happens at home, and it's cheap, $2 or $3 for a full charge. Not everyone will be convinced, but just seeing electric vehicles in action is enough for many to take a second look. So Jen is continuing her no-emission road trip, traveling and charging, showing others what's already possible. David Common, CBC News, Rossland, BC.
Any plans to get an electric car?
Well, you know, we're talking about it, but and with these rebates, both at the federal and provincial level, I think it's going to entice a lot of people to think about it, especially with our gas prices.
Well, I can't wait to ride in your new Tesla.
Well, go right for the Tesla. Sure, yeah, exactly. That's it for us right now. Thanks for watching on, well, CBC Gem, Facebook Live, YouTube, CBC Online, and various other platforms unknown or unnamed.
We will be on again on TV after the hockey game if you missed any of these stories or want to watch some more great storytelling. We'll see you tomorrow, if not.
Absolutely. Thanks for watching.
Good night.